Please join me for Ask the Good Doctor, live today and every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 noon Central Standard Time, and 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Bring your questions.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. LaJoyce Brookshire, and welcome to Ask the Good Doctor. We are here to help you attain, maintain, and reclaim your perfect health. Grab your Good Doctor notebook. You are not going to want to miss a moment of today's program. We have got for you live from Johannesburg today another naturopathic doctor, a wonderful colleague who is going to share with us the concept of a diagnostic tool of looking at your blood. It's called live blood cell analysis. And I would like to welcome with us today, Dr. Okker. Hello, Dr. Okker.
Hi, how you doing?
I am well. Thank you so much for being here. We are pleased to have you all the way from Johannesburg. What a wonderful treat. And what time is it there right now? It's evening, isn't it?
It's evening, yeah, it's just almost 8 p.m.
All right. Well, we're going to get to it and let you get on with your evening. First,
Yeah.
I'd like you to define for us exactly what is live blood cell analysis and why can it be an important diagnostic tool?
Okay. So live blood analysis or live blood cell analysis is not technically a diagnostic tool in terms of conventional medicine. It's not
Right.
used to diagnose medical diseases. Just simply by looking at a drop of blood under the microscope. But it provides the practitioner with a wide range of information that you really can't test with conventional blood tests and conventional investigations. In terms of what it is, it's as the name suggests, it's essentially the analysis of live blood under a microscope. This is usually done by nutritionists, naturopaths, and other practitioners involved in the field of natural health or natural medicine. And they conduct the test usually in their own practices, where the blood is placed on a specialized microscope, viewed under very high magnification, with a few different types of settings. But the client is then able to see for themselves on the screen a live view of their own blood cells, which is always really, really fascinating and quite amazing to be able to see.
That's what's actually beneficial. The fact that the person before you can actually look at it themselves.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's a lot more interactive and very different dynamic from just simply having some blood drawn and getting it sent off to the lab and perhaps seeing some numbers on lab report. This
Mhm.
visual impact of live blood cell analysis is extremely valuable and really has a very powerful effect on people. People generally want to know what they should be doing to correct the imbalances that were picked up in the analysis.
Yes, what is taken into consideration when looking at these cells? And I'm sure that anyone who's been to high school biology has had to bite off a piece of their cheek cell and look at it underneath the microscope and all of the other things that they teach us in biology and then moving into chemistry. But then we've never though crossed into the lane of looking at our blood in real time.
Mm. And isn't it should be something that should be fairly, fairly, it's common sense really that you should be able to get a lot of really valuable information about what's going on, with your health at a cellular level from looking at your live blood as the cells are, and as they behave inside, your system when the blood's circulating, as opposed to, taking a sample and adding stains and other chemicals to it, and then viewing it after the cells have already been damaged by all these other procedures. Live blood cell analysis, we don't really do anything to the cells at all, or anything to the sample at all. It simply goes directly from the client's finger onto the slide and onto the microscope, and we view it basically in real time, while the cells are still alive. So extremely valuable, in terms of what you can actually see then.
Yes. And here's what the disclaimer here. Don't try this at home because this is not something that can be analyzed by utilizing just any old microscope. Yes?
Yeah, absolutely. It is one of the sort of pitfalls with live blood analysis is that the suppliers and microscope manufacturers out there are not really involved with live blood microscopy, so they don't really know the actual specifications that are required for a proper dark field system, and simply
Mm.
assume that any dark field microscope would work and would do the job, but you're actually not able to see most of the anomalies in dark field if the system is not really 100% correct and has all the features that are required. And just a basic bright field microscope would also not allow you to see everything, because it is a fairly specialized system.
It's a very specialized system and a very specialized technique as well, which is actually how I found you all, because I'm always seeking and learning how to put another tool in my toolbox. And I've had this done before. I'd like to show the audience some of the slides that you've brought to underscore how looking at these live blood cells could be beneficial for you taking a look at what's going on with you in real time. Chris, if you could show us the first slide, and Dr. Okker is going to take us through these.
Okay, so this is just an example of the types of views that we usually get with a live blood sample. The example on the left is your standard bright field image, where the light is just simply sort of passes through the sample from the light source through into the objectives. And there's a few things that we can see that with that, but the real value comes in with the view on the right-hand side, where we actually have a dark field condenser that's being used, and you can actually see in the image on the right-hand side all the lines and other structures there between the cells that become visible in dark field. So that's where the real sort of power of live blood analysis lies in with us being able to see all these unusual anomalies in dark field that are not visible at all with a bright field microscope.
And a bright field microscope being a traditional microscope.
Absolutely. So your standard laboratory microscope would invariably be a bright field microscope, and there are some other types of things that you can get with a microscope, other types of condensers and so on. But the standard type of supply with a laboratory microscope is bright field.
And on the dark field microscope side, tell us about the cells of this person, this sample that you've presented here.
All right, so if we look at the image on the right-hand side, the in dark field. Now, in live blood analysis, usually we start out by looking at a sample and comparing what we're seeing to what a normal picture would look like. So normal conditions, the blood cells present in a very specific way. They're arranged in a very specific way. So all those sort of deviations from normal is really what's important in a live blood cell analysis session. Looking at those rings that are visible there in the dark field image, those are the red blood cells. And in normal conditions, the red blood cells, ideally should be lying next to each other on one plane. They have a negative electrical charge on the surface of the red blood cell membranes called the zeta potential. Now, just like two same sides of a magnet, if you bring them together, they don't really make contact. They naturally repel each other. This is the same concept that applies with the red blood cells. If the zeta potential is intact, the cells won't actually stick together. But various things that can happen in your diet and lifestyle would cause the cells to start sticking together, and that's the the real benefit with live blood analysis, is that a lot of what we see in blood samples actually maybe self-inflicted by clients, just simply through
Yes.
incorrect dietary and lifestyle choices. So a very useful tool just to educate people, to show them the actual effects of what they're putting in their bodies.
Yes. And is this kind of clumping, is this the one that's called Rolu?
Yes, absolutely. So this overlapping that we're seeing of the blood cells, that's called rouleau. and that is just it's in most cases related to the digestive system. It's a sign
Mm-hmm.
of digestive imbalance.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, when we see that, we start looking at more detail, into the client's history in terms of diet and lifestyle, what they're eating, the symptoms they may be experiencing in the digestion. And with these cases, if there's rouleau in a sample, clients usually have they're aware of some digestive issue. There might be diet related. In some cases, it's simply just the digestion and things like probiotics. But it generally, when we see this, people immediately say, "Oh yeah, I do have issues with the digestion."
Mm-hmm. Okay, good one. Next slide.
All right. So I just mentioned earlier, there's other types of illumination and techniques that you can use in a sample. In live blood cell analysis, they sometimes also use phase contrast, which is the image on the top left-hand side there. We don't really use it. We mainly use dark field because we're able to see a lot more in dark field than what than what you're able to see in phase contrast.
Mm-hmm. And then in this sample, what can you determine from this slide?
Yeah, so you can see the image in phase contrast doesn't really show, uh, you know, many unusual things there. The anomalies are not very clearly visible there. Whereas on the right-hand side in dark field there, we can see fine bubbles between the cells.
Mm.
That would be a sign of fermentation. So those patterns we typically see in people that struggle with candida.
Yeah.
And it's a very useful indicator because often people are diagnosed with candida and they're on a candida diet and they're on this diet for years and they're not sure if they're getting anywhere and if anything's working or not, and they're never really sure what's going on with the candida. So with the live blood sample, we're actually able to see where they are at, whether the approaches and interventions are actually working, and if it is actually candida in the first place, often it's something else, perhaps another adrenal issue or other parasites.
That I was just about to say that another one of our good doctors who comes to the show, Dr. Burton, he would look at this and determine you're wormy. You're wormy because candida, as you say, always points to, quite frankly, a parasitic issue.
Yeah.
What I like about this specifically, I always state that your biography does not dictate your biology. And here is proof why. Because everyone's blood stands alone.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, next
absolutely.
slide, Chris. And also this also could be is used also to determine oxidative stress. Oh, this person's in trouble.
Yes, absolutely. So the red blood cells, we're quite fortunate in that we are looking at blood. Most of the cells that we'll see would be red blood cells. They're the most numerous of all the sort of blood cells that we encounter, and the red blood cells, as part of their function to help them carry around oxygen and exchange gases, they
Mm.
lose some of their normal cellular elements that you usually would find with other cells, which then basically prevents them from being able to repair themselves. So any sort of damage,
Yes.
any oxidative stress, the red cells are not really able to repair themselves like other cells. So we're actually able to get a very clear picture of a person's oxidative stress over a period of time simply by looking at the shapes of the red blood cells. So in this image, we can see not all the red cells are nice and round. In a normal example, in a normal sample, all the red cells should be nice and round, and we shouldn't get any of these unusual shapes here. So quite a few irregular shapes visible here. Those are red blood cells that have been damaged by oxidative stress. So there's cell membrane damage as a result of toxins that a person has been exposed to.
All right. And what kind of trouble is this person into or headed for if they don't make a change?
So most of these anomalies are relate to imbalances that natural health practitioners work with. So we work with nutritional deficiencies, and as
Yes.
you know, the pH and the gut and the digestive system and the liver and the organs of elimination and so on. So all of those indicators we can actually very clearly see in a live blood sample. And as you know, all these imbalances can lead to the development of chronic disease.
Mm-hmm.
So very useful to be able to pick up these imbalances at a much earlier stage, because your conventional blood tests will only show once a disease is actually set in. This actually allows us to pick things up from a much earlier point, and then make changes when, before organic changes have actually set in.
And here's what I love about this. If you look at something just like this, and even if you don't know what you're looking at, you know it's trouble. But
Absolutely.
yes, you know it's trouble. You may not know what kind of trouble, but if this was your slide from your blood, if you were in the office of a practitioner offering live blood cell analysis, you would say, oh, because it should be floating free. And that's the point. You underscored every single thing I've been teaching here for a long time, and quite succinctly with this one slide. And I I think that the visual of it, it's a scared straight tactic. I don't know if in your country know it's scared straight. Showing people something that's a visual that is so intense that they start moving on the right path right away because they can see the danger. And you can, with a great degree of certainty, determine that a slide like this one, this person has been at it for a long time.
Yeah.
This wasn't
Yes.
one hamburger.
Absolutely, absolutely. So your day-to-day changes and changes in diet and lifestyle won't really have a very noticeable and major impact on what you're seeing in the blood sample. And there isn't really any way to, people notice this as well, and they realize this when they come for the analysis, is that there's no real way for the practitioner to affect these results. The blood goes out of the finger straight onto the slide. What we're seeing is what's going on there. We're not able to cheat the system, and at the same time, patients are also not able to cheat the system if they've not been following your recommendations. You can also see when things are not going the right way.
Oh, that's a good one. Here's what I like about what you just stated. You said with this system, you can't cheat the system. There's no hanky panky, that it's prick, slide, let's look. End of story.
Exactly.
And you can't go and run and then take all of your supplements and then come to the however, the situation, can we have the next slide, Chris? In the situation where I had this done, it was in a class situation. My teacher, she had a dark field microscope, and she was amazing. And so she took the person whose blood was the worst and gave them like a green drink with spirulina, chlorophyll, blue-green algae, and then pricked them again, and it broke up
Yeah, yeah.
in no time, 5 minutes time. Can you explain that?
It's really just related to what I mentioned earlier, the zeta potential or the zeta potential. It's that negative charge on the surface of the red blood cell. So as the system becomes more and more toxic, and the system's not able to eliminate, these things accumulate, and the effect on the zeta potential becomes much more pronounced. So the more toxic, the more clumping we tend to see, and then in those cases, because there's so much room for improvement,
Yeah.
giving them some ionic minerals and other substances that will help to restore that zeta potential has a dramatic impact on what you actually see in the sample. Then when you
Yes.
yeah, and
Absolutely.
it's encouraging for people, because they can see, it's not, although they might have had a fright in terms of what they saw, they can see that it's something that can be addressed quite easily.
Absolutely. What are we seeing now?
All right, so this is again just some candida, those bubbles, the fine light bubbles throughout the plasma between the red blood cells. Those all
Mhm.
indicate an issue with candida. This type of presentation, when we see it to this extent, is a sign of sort of chronic candida. So when we see this is usually the starting point, and this is what we really focus on to get results. And if you look at the lower left-hand side of the screen there, those fine lines, we had some in the previous slide as well, that indicates a bit of stress on the liver. So the liver,
Mhm.
as you know, is an extremely important
Yes.
organ, involved in a wide range of functions, and quite easily stressed by our indiscretions in terms of diet and lifestyle as well.
Yeah,
It's obviously not just alcohol, but there's lots of other things that affect the liver.
true.
And we always work with everything in the case that might be aggravating the condition, and then supporting the liver with some herbal support as well. And the great thing with it is that we can then test. So like with any other anomaly in the blood, we can put the client on a recommended intervention and test again in a few weeks to see if we're on the right track.
Awesome. It's interesting that you said once again parasites. I'm going to tell you something. My first course of action, I don't care what's wrong with you, the first thing we get at when you come to me, we kill those bugs.
Yeah. You got to get
That's
rid of those. That's the easiest, and it's also, when we see it in the blood, it's fairly common to see parasite indicators in the blood, and in those cases that's where we start, because the toxicity indicators, the pH, the liver stress, all of those can be aggravated or even caused by a parasitic infestation.
absolutely. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate these slides that you've brought to us today. And when we are living in a society, thank you, Chris. When we are living in a society where most run to take a pill for this and take a pill for that, we have other interventions, and I wanted to present this specifically today to prove that there's more than one way to perfect health. There are a lot of diagnostics to help us get there, and this is specifically it. So one of them as well. Dr. Okker, you're a naturopathic doctor just like me. How did you find your way to Dark Field Microscopy?
I started with my practice. I did iridology. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but
Of
looking at
course.
the indicators in the eye. I did it because, firstly, it is very, very interesting, but also practitioners coming to, or patients coming to see natural health practitioners in this country, at least, there's always the perception, or there used to be the perception that the doctor has to look in your eye.
That's
So
right.
that's what I did, and it is very beneficial. I had good results with it, but I had a colleague in the same practice who was a nutritionist who worked with dark field microscopy, and I just saw the dynamic and how different it was from what I was doing, and the results that he was getting, and the sort of interaction that he had with his patients, that they really got on board. Seeing the image of your blood has a very strong motivating effect on people. It's not just a practitioner saying, you should change this in your diet, and you should not be doing this, you should rather be doing that. It's something that actually confirms what the practitioner is saying. So very, very valuable. That's where it started. And I still look at the eye, but
Right.
the changes that we see in the blood is they take place in real time, and we actually see changes taking place as a result of our interventions much faster than what you would be able to see it in the eye.
I look in the eye as well. And the same teacher, she had the iridology machine, and she give you the beautiful printout
Yeah.
of, yes, of what it was. But then one of the things that I learned from her, shout out to Dr. Cynthia Howell, I love you to pieces. And Dr. Cynthia taught us how to look at the eye and look for dangers, how to determine candida in the eye, look for parasites, look for low iron, look for striations in the eye that indicate that the person is high blood pressure, burgeoning, or really a problem, to look for liver. So a lot of things, when I even doing phone consultations, people have to send me a picture of their eye. How can you do a phone
Excellent.
consultation without looking at me? Send me a picture of your eye, your tongue, your teeth. Yes, Dr.
Yes,
Okker?
yes, absolutely, absolutely. What is really fascinating is then, we look at the eye and it tells us something, and we look at the blood and it actually tells us the same thing, and we know that we're on the right track then.
That's right. And don't let me get your feet in my lap. Then then with reflexology, it's like it's confirming the story, and
That's it.
it's the same story. What's interesting though is that how with these diagnostics, and people will pay to come and see you, how they'll still lie. Isn't that interesting, Dr. Okker?
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. That everything that you're doing is incorrect in exactly the same way.
Yes, yes, yes. Because some people will say you're looking at them and they'll say one thing, and your eyebrow kind of goes up, and then you keep pressing. The body tells a story.
Yeah, yeah,
The
absolutely.
body leaves clues.
Yeah,
That's what I
yeah,
always say.
that's it.
And I was just going to ask you, what do you think can help motivate people into better health?
Well, I've seen the effects of what viewing your blood sample in a screen does to people, and I've had major changes with my clients. People that came in, and before even starting, they would tell you, just I have a glass of whiskey every night. Don't tell me to stop that, or don't tell me to stop drinking coffee. Uh, I'll take any supplement you give me, but don't tell me to stop this or that. Once they see their blood, they're on board. They're willing to make the change because
Mm,
of the effect that it has on them. It's not just my opinion that they should be changing that. It's their blood that's actually telling them that. So a
yes.
very, very powerful motivator for getting people to actually make those positive changes that they really need to make in their lifestyles.
Yes. And you've also got some powerful solutions to help people stay well during the season of virus that we're enduring. What is it that you're recommending and helping people to stay well, to keep their immune systems boosted so they don't have to get?
Yeah, so we've come across, due to this the challenges, we've come across an active ingredient that's produced from a fractional extract of a specific type of blue-green algae, a specific type of spirulina. It's not spirulina, but it's a fractional sort of extract from that. So clinically proven to prevent viral penetration of the cells. So in other words, it acts almost like a viral firewall. So
Mm,
it prevents the viruses from entering cells and causing infection, which is quite powerful and quite useful. And we've had excellent results with that with our clients.
and what about those? Has it also been beneficial for those who have been injured as well? Those who have blood clots, of course, certainly.
Yes, yes. So we have been using the same product. It's called viral gin that extract from the blue green algae. In those cases as well, for clients who are struggling with thrombosis, we actually have something called lumbrozyme, or
Lumbrozyme.
lumbrozyme. The active ingredient is lumbrokinase. So if you've heard or come across nattokinase
Mm,
and serapeptase, those enzymes, so lumbrokinase is in the same sort of category, but is several times stronger than nattokinase in terms of its ability to prevent clots and dissolve fibrin. Um, it is produced from earthworms, though, so not a vegan, not
mm.
suitable for vegans, but extremely powerful. We've had great results with that, with preventing thrombosis and dissolving clots. And those are also, by the way, indicators that we can see quite clearly in a blood sample. We can see the clotting changes taking place in a sample, and those risks are quite clearly obvious.
Okay. So this is good news because people feel that they're doomed, and they're not. There is help. There is a lot of help. And Dr. Okker has just presented to us some wonderful things. We're going to have on the screen also the information on how to purchase your Viral Gen products and the others as well from your website, neurogenesisproducts.com. And it's going to be highly beneficial. Those are the kinds I those are the kinds of things that I think we should have in our herbal medicine cabinet for just in case. That we should not be caught without these things because there are just so many things that can happen. And we need to be able to give it to ourselves or to someone that we love.
Mm. Yeah, we have people taking the viral gin on a daily basis as a preventative
Preventative.
type of product, and it's something that's, and on the one hand, it is very effective. It's been clinically studied, but is also completely non-toxic. You can probably take the whole bottle of capsules in one go, and it won't have any negative effects on the system because it is actually just a food. It's a food
Of course.
supplement. So that's the wonderful thing with natural medicines. If you use them correctly, the risks are extremely minimal with any sort of negative effects.
Absolutely. And no contraindications.
Absolutely, yeah. So the product Viral Gin as well is because it is a food supplement, is quite safe in pregnancy, lactation, and for children as well.
Oh, that is just beautiful. So we are going to have Neogenesis products posted down below. I want to thank you for being here today. Thank you for joining us and enlightening us on this amazing tool that we can utilize to, in real time, take a peek at our blood and see how we are doing. Thank you, Dr. Okker, all the way from Johannesburg. We'll see you again.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. I'd like to thank my team, IW supervising producer, Christopher Green, technical producer, and announcers DJ Indy and Chris Brown. Remember to let your eyes shine, cut back on the wine, get good food fast, and go easy on the greasy. Until next time, I'm Dr. LaJoyce Brookshire, here to help you attain and maintain your perfect health. Let's do it again next week, okay? God bless you.